Do you want to sew a cat bag like this? I've made you a free pattern if you want to sew along with me. Hi, I'm Linda from Sew & Bee Fabrics, and I want to show you how to make this kitty foam bag. I've made you a free downloadable pattern. If you want to get it, all you need to do is click on this link or follow the link in the description. I used a skinny quarter of cotton for my lining, the strap and the outside pieces. The outer pieces have matching fleece scraps that have been backed with interfacing. The bag pieces have a seam allowance added all the way around. There's a cotton fleece interfacing and cotton again for the flap, again all with an added seam allowance. The ears have got front and back cotton with stiff interfacing and a seam allowance all around. All the decorative parts to go on top have been backed with heat and bond. The paws and tail have a matching seam allowance added where they meet the edges of the pattern, and so do the kitty hair and the inner ear parts. The paw prints don't touch any of the edges, so no seam allowance is needed there. I've got my cotton for the strap here, and I've already added the stiff interfacing strip right down the centre of it. I'm going to start out by joining the top pieces of cotton for the bag to the fleece layer with the interfacing on the back. I've used a free motion darning foot so I can move in any direction and draw swirls with my thread. And if you're sewing along, any type of stitch pattern will work fine here. The aim is just to join the layers together, so if you're more comfy just sewing straight lines, then go for it. I'm working from the edges, spreading all of my stitches out all over the fabric. The more stitch coverage there is, the less movement of the layers, and so the stiffer it'll be. As it's only small, I've popped a few clips around the edge to keep the fabric in position as I sew. That'll hold it in place fine while I stitch it all together. If you want to leave this part out, that's absolutely fine. You could just bond your interfacing to the back of your cotton instead. I've added the fleece to mine because not only will it give the bag a little more structure, it'll also add a bit of padding if the bag gets knocked or dropped with my phone inside. You can see how well these pieces hold their shape when they're done. Next, I've grabbed my big paw pieces and the tail pieces. They're backed with heat and bond already, so I'm just pulling off the papery backing and then arranging those pieces where I want them to go. I've put a piece of cotton from the bag flap first, and that's just so that when the bag is closed, that my paws are exactly where I want them to look. I've pressed those pieces in place with the iron and that bonds them together. And then I can just stitch them down in place around the edges of those paws. It's easier to do the little paw prints in the centre once the big parts are already securely in place, so I'll be sewing them after. The heat and bond will stop the edges from fraying, and the bag won't be washed regularly, so I'm just stitching them down with a running stitch. I won't be worrying about having to seal any of the raw edges in because that really isn't going to matter in this case. Now the paws are stitched down, I'm just doing exactly the same with the tail. So I'm bonding it again with the heat and bond with the iron, and then I'm just going to sew it down with a quick stitch going all the way around the edge, following it around. Next up, I'm going to get those teeny tiny little paw pieces, a hot press to fix them in position, and then I'm just going to stitch them down. It's a little bit more tricky working around such dinky little pieces, especially if you're going to be using a regular foot instead of a free motion foot. So if you haven't got heat and bond, you might want to use a touch of fabric glue to keep them in place instead. And obviously feel free to add any other decorations to your kitty body that you want at this point. Maybe you might want to applique a little bow on the end of the tail or a little heart shape on its tummy or something like that. Now my outer bag pieces are all decorated and ready to go, I'm going to move on to the bag flap next. So I've got the top cotton piece and the interface backed fleece. Instead of quilting them together like the bag, I'm just sewing very close to the edge all the way around. These layers will be held together with the face stitching and a cam snap closure as well, so I don't need to quilt them. Next, I've ironed on the little kitty hair piece, and I've used a water erasable marker to mark out where I want the face to be. I've switched my thread out to a darker blue, and just like before, I'm using my free motion foot to follow all around the outer edge of this darker fabric. And then comes the fun part, adding the face to the cat. I'm just following the lines that I drew out with my fabric marker. I find it could be helpful to go forwards and backwards a few times to make the lines a little bit thicker and bolder, or if you prefer, you could always hand embroider yours with a thicker thread. So I've done some sneaky little eyes and the mouth, but I'm not going to be sewing the nose because later on I'm going to add a cam snap closure, and I can position that so that my kitty will have a cute little round shiny nose instead. I've tidied up my stitching and made sure that I'm happy with the little kitty face. If you want to press it at this point, just make sure that you've removed all traces of any fabric markers, and that way you won't be setting them in with the iron. Then I'm just taking the back piece of cotton for the flap, placing it right sides together with the face. I'm fixing it together by sewing all the way down the sides of the flap and then back up in a U shape, leaving the top part open where we'll join it to the main part of the bag. I've clipped the corners close to the stitching, and that'll help the flat to lie flat when I turn it back the right way out. Then I'm just top stitching around the edge to help it look nice and neat and keep it shaped more easily. I'm using an overcast foot here so that I can put my needle into the left stitch position and use the guide to help me stitch nice and close to the edge. Okay, let's take the front ear pieces next. I'm going to attach the inner ear bit of cotton first, so I've ironed it in place with heat and bond. Now it's a bit trickier because they're so small, so just take it slowly as you stitch, especially when you start out. Or if you want to make it easier for yourself, you could always just sew your inner ear part to a bigger piece of cotton and trim it down to the right size of the ear after. Then I'm just taking the front and the back ear pieces. I've paired them up right sides together and I'm just stitching round the edges. I've snipped near that top angle on the ear tip and then I'm turning it the right way around again. Pressing it flat, I'm just going to top stitch right the way around the edge just so that it holds its shape and stands up more easily. Let's sew the strap next. I've got my stiff interfacing already fixed right down the centre of this cotton strip. So all I have to do is to iron the edges inwards on both sides of the interfacing. And that will mean that the raw edges will be into the centre, right in the middle. Then if I fold the strip in half and press it there, it'll sandwich those raw edges right into the middle. And there's also now a double layer of stiff interfacing, so they'll be nice and stable. I like to stitch down the open edge first. I find that by lining up this edge first as I sew, I tend to get a neater finish. So everything is held in a perfect position. When I come to sew the other side, I can go nice and quickly. And all I'm doing then is just securing that side in place. I've left the ends open and scruffy because they're going to be hidden inside the bag and you're not going to see them anyway. I've got the outer pieces first and I'm just facing them right sides together. Now with the outer pieces, I'm sewing all the way down, across the bottom and back up in a U shape, just leaving the top part open. Next up, I've got the lining pieces. Again, I'm popping them right side together, but this time I'm sewing down the long side right to the corner, but I'm stopping there. I'm going to leave the entire bottom open, and then I'm just stitching back up on the other long side, so it's more like an open-ended tube. Okay, now I just need to put everything together. I'm going to fix my ears and handles to the flap first. I'm placing them right side together. This stitching's just to hold it all in position so that they can't slip as I fix the whole bag together. So I'm stitching nearer to the edge than I would with a regular seam allowance. To put it all together, I've got my outer bag layer still inside out. The flap closure needs to go right side together with the back of the bag. I'm tucking in the handle inside, making sure it's right the way out the way. I've turned my lining the right way around so that when I put it inside, it'll be right sides together with the outer layer. I need the side seams to line up, so I'm making sure of that before I clip it in place to help hold it all together. Then I'm sewing all the way around the top edge, right the way around with a normal seam allowance. Because there's quite a few layers to get through, I'm using a thick fabric foot to be able to move easily over it. If you want to know more about this foot and sewing thick fabric in general, I'll pop a link to that video in the description. Now, do you remember the hole I left in the bottom of the lining? I'm going to pull the whole lot all the way through that hole now. I'm going to start with the handle, pull that through first, and then just gently wiggle the rest through. I'm leaving the lining facing outwards, and here's the hole I turned it through. I'm just tucking the ends underneath itself. Then I'm going to stitch that closed by sewing very close to the edge. And once that's done, I can tuck the lining neatly inside. I'm using cam snaps as a closure, and I wanted the circle on the outside to be my kitty nose. So I'm using an awl to make a hole right in the middle of where I want that to be. Cam snaps come in two parts. There's a part with a prong and then a part with the popper piece. So I'm pushing that through the hole and popping the popper piece over the top. Once they're squished together and nice and secure, I need to put the other side of the snap in. So I'm closing the flap to see where it lines up best, and then I know the best position to put it so that the front of the bag will be able to lay flat. Because cam snaps have a male and a female side, I've switched over the press part and now popping the other side in. There, now it's all done and ready to be my kitty phone companion. I hope you had fun sewing along with me. If you did, don't forget you can always hit like or subscribe. If you had a go at making one, let me know in the comments below. You could also join our newsletter where we'll let you know every time a new tutorial comes out. I look forward to sewing with you again soon. Bye now.